Well, the financial fallout from the rapidly spreading coronavirus is massive, and that's why we're bringing in an expert to help explain what all of these changes mean for your investments. We have with us live Alex Reffett. He is a finance and mortgage advisor with the East Paces Group. Alex, we certainly appreciate your time. We're going to dive right in. There was some breaking news earlier today. President Trump held a press conference where he said Americans need cash right now, and he also had his the Treasury Secretary said they're looking to send checks to all Americans immediately. This is fast breaking. It just happened. Any indication or any speculation you think of what this means for us?
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, this is a very unique approach to a stimulus package, one that I certainly haven't seen before. I think the biggest issue that people are experiencing is the potential cash flow shortage. I mean, the service industry, the retail industry has really been disrupted, and as most people know, oftentimes people really don't have in savings what they need to have to survive this kind of disruption in their household cash flow. So it's a very unique approach. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out and how it actually works and what people use that money for. But yeah, the news is as fresh to me as it is to everyone else, and I'm certainly curious to see how quickly and how effective this is.
I agree with you. And the word you said, refreshing for a lot of people to get that money, because like you mentioned, a lot of resources for families are being shrunk because they're being called to go home off their jobs. The Treasury and the IRS also giving consumers a little bit of a break. They have agreed to delay the tax deadline by 90 days. So does this mean that we don't have to file taxes on April 15th?
Well, this seems to be changing every day, so it's hard to get a final answer or know for sure to give people advice. But the latest I've seen is that they're still encouraging people to file by the April 15th deadline, and it's just more of a deferral in the payment. But again, as much news is broken just today that I've been trying to keep up with myself, that could certainly change. But I still have, the latest I've seen is that they're encouraging people to still file by the 15th.
It is happening at lightning speed. And another thing that broke yesterday was that the feds were dropping the interest rates to 0%. Is this a good time to refinance mortgages or even your student loans?
It's certainly a good time to take a look at your mortgage. I mean, obviously, the less interest you can be paying on a note as long as 15, 20, or 30 years, that can be a very substantial savings on a monthly basis. So I would certainly consider looking at options to refinance your mortgage. I don't know that it's worth saving just a few basis points, considering there can be some expensive closing costs, but especially if you're anywhere in the high 4s or 5s, it's definitely worth looking at. I mean, they're at record lows right now from as far as mortgages go. Student loans, on the other hand, if you have the cash flow to be able to sustain those payments and you are in somewhat of a credit crunch personally, I don't know that I would necessarily make alterations to the payments you're making, because this is actually an advantage to not be, for your payments not to be contributed just towards interest, but more towards principal. So this can actually expedite your payment plan for your student loans if you're in a position to be able to continue making those payments. So everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. If you have a high mortgage rate, definitely look to refinance it. And if you are able to continue making your student loans, then now you just have more going towards principal that is less interest you're going to pay in the future. So
very good advice.
Hopefully.
You mentioned what I think is key here, and I hate to interrupt you. You said if you are in the position to do so. One last question before we let you go. All major indices on Wall Street have rebounded today so far. Things could change, but how can you protect your 401k and your IRAs? People are looking at that and they're scared.
Sure. Yeah, it's our team at the East Paces Group has really been trying to encourage people to look at what their goals are and not necessarily the worst thing you can do is fear sell at the bottom of markets right amidst a major correction, because looking forward for people's retirement goals that are often 10, 15, even 30 years out sometimes, you really don't want to be too focused on the short term, because if you make panic decisions right now, that can really negatively affect your retirement outlook. So I would say that this is a great exercise in people reviewing their portfolios, making sure they've been invested correctly, because as coronavirus will pass over time, there's going to be another something that severely impacts markets to the degree of 20, 30, 40%.
Alex
and
Reffett.
when that happens, as they're closer to retirement, they're going to need to be ready.
Alex, we hate to cut you off, but we got to go. We've run out of time. You've gave great information. We certainly appreciate your insight on this financial fallout.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can read more financial fallout from coronavirus on the powerful CBS 46 streaming app. You can download it for free or update it if you already have it, so you can be the first to know about new developments. You can also find it in the Apple App Store or on Google Play.